Welcome to Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. It is Monday morning the 12th. Summer weather has returned. Triple digits have returned. And while that is not generally a good thing, it is an excellent thing when the last half of July was on the cold side for Texas. In July, it was just a little too freaky for all of us. So, personally, I'm glad the hot weather has returned and things are back to normal. If you are new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I had a very good reading week. Did you? So, what did I read? But first, a little housekeeping. Today is my birthday. And the lovely Amanda sent me a birthday gift. It got here in the middle of last week, and I exercised some self-control, and I am opening it, as you can hear, right now for the first time. And it's in a gift bag. Thank you, Amanda. 2 gift bags. Okay, so what did she send me? Okay. Maybe I should have had coffee before I tried to undo an Amazon gift bag knot. Okay, there we go. It's a book. Anybody shocked? It's a book. Less Than Graceful. Okay, so the first one is Of Love and Treason by Jamie Ogle. And this is, I'll read the top blurb. Valentine defines the Emperor and becomes a hero and the most wanted man in the Empire. Compelled by his faith, he has nothing to lose until a chance encounter with the daughter of a Roman jailer changes everything. A couple of people on Goodreads have read it. They said it's excellent. So I'm interested to see. Okay. Whoever tied these bags for Amazon did an amazing job, and they are not just loosely tied. Okay. Book 2. Ooh. This one was high on my list. This is The Medicine Woman of Galveston. I love this cover. And it is written by Amanda Scheckendorn. I've never read anything by her. I've never read anything by Jamie Ogle either. I'll read you the top blurb for this one too. A powerful, heart-wrenching novel that immerses readers in Galveston, Texas, setting where a woman doctor who has taken refuge in a traveling medicine show battles to survive and to save others during the Great Hurricane of 1900, the nation's worst natural disaster to date. And I did not know this, but this book has deckled edges. I don't know if it's obvious, but yeah, it has deckled edges. I am very excited to read both of these. And they're right up what I am interested in reading at the moment. So thank you, Amanda. Your amazingly generous and unexpected gift is a blessing, just like you are in my life on a daily basis. And I appreciate you more than you know. I really do. So, thank you. Okay. I am so thrilled with those books. I cannot wait to read them. I say this knowing that right now my reading is just packed, but I am so looking forward to those books. So, okay, what did I read last week? I had a very good reading week. Felicity is cleaning herself. I apologize if that noise is making it on camera. I only had one DNF, and I tried so very hard not to DNF this book, but I couldn't. I DNF'd always, or not always, Evermore by Jody Hedlund. It is the book club choice for this month. I enjoyed the prequel very much. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more. I loved the covers of these books. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it past the first chapter. So I go into great detail, not great detail, but I go into detail on the Discord, but I will give you a synopsis here. The author very clearly makes a setting choice when she includes a map in the beginning of the book. And that map is very clearly Anglo-Saxon Britain, after the Romans and before being conquered by William the Conqueror. It is a very definite and specific time frame in English history. And that map is only valid for that time period of history. And as such, the inclusion of other historical points that have fairly fixed time frames, when you have clearly physically landed your story in Anglo-Saxon Britain, my historical brain was just like, what? What are you doing? So, jousting, the book opens up and they're at a jousting tournament, and our female protagonist suddenly decides she's going to jump on the war horse and win the jousting tournament for her family. Okay. There is no, none, zero, zilch historical basis for women jousters. Second of all, jousting did not occur in Anglo-Saxon Britain. It did not occur until it didn't even start becoming a thing. It reached its height of popularity in the early 14th century, late 13th century, and it was much more popular in continental Europe than it was in England. So not only do we have jousting in the wrong period and all of the chivalric code that goes with a jousting tournament in the wrong period, you now have a young woman who is 18, we'll be generous and say she's 20, who was capable of donning all the chainmail and all of that weight, jumping on a war horse with all of that weight, then not only picking up a jousting lance, but effectively wielding it and knocking her opponent off of his horse with enough force to win the tournament. I understand it's fiction. I understand that they're trying to make her, something special, but I couldn't. Her name is Adelaide. That is definitely not an Anglo-Saxon name. It is definitely not an early medieval name. It is a mid to late 18th century name. So there are just so many things wrong. I only made it through, I didn't even come to the end of chapter 1 before I had to DNF because my brain was just bees buzzing with all the things that were wrong. Like, it's okay to take a moment in history and change a big detail, but it isn't okay for my brain to fix your story in one moment in history and then bring in a bunch of details from other points of history and then somehow blend them all together and make it a believable story. I couldn't do it. So I have DNF'd it. There are several people in the Discord who are in the process of reading it, who have enjoyed it. So if you can suspend historical disbelief, you may get along with it much better than I did. I just, no. Okay, so what else did I read this week? I had a very good reading week. I did finish The Bride of Ivy Green by Julia Klassen, and I am going to stick with my assertion that this book has too many words. It was probably 150 pages longer than it needed to be. There were, and I don't say this very often, too many superfluous characters that really added nothing to the overall story arc and didn't come to a happy resolution and really served no purpose other than villainy. And I enjoyed the series overall. This is my least favorite book in the series, like by far. And that could be because it was so much romance, and I'm not in the mood for a lot of romance right now. And there were just too many characters, and it went into detail that it didn't need to go into, and I did not really I didn't think any of that was necessary, and I was bored. I was bored. This book was 150 pages too long. It could have wrapped up just as well in a much more timely and expeditious manner. And in my opinion, it really, really needed to. Okay, so what did I read next? I finished The Duke's Diary by Aahtyn Newbold. This is the second book in the Noble Imposter series. And it is, in this one, our heroine is 20, going on 21, and she gets fake kidnapped by her brother and his best friend, the Duke of Haywood, so that her father can't, in essence, sell her off to a much older gentleman to pay off his debts. The caveat there is it has to A, be believable when they kidnap her, and B, she has to stay hidden for a year so that she reaches her majority and her father can't force her into marriage. This one was just okay. It read too young. It was clear who the male protagonist was going to be from the first book. It was a little convoluted, and I didn't really enjoy it. Did I hate it? No. Did I DNF it? No. Did it live up to the first book in my opinion? No. Am I now on the fence about the third book in the series, which comes out next month, I believe? Yes. It just read really young to me, and it read forced. It's the best way I have to describe it. It read like the author didn't really like her characters, and she was kind of all over the place trying to figure out what she wanted to do with them, and it didn't work for me. It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. It is definitely a light Regency romance, but I would classify this one as young adult, and yeah. So, okay. Now the rest of the week was much better. Much, much better. So I went and picked up my new glasses on Friday, and I started a book Friday morning when I got up. I was furiously reading, trying to finish it before I picked up my glasses so that I could return it when I went to the library on the way home from picking up my glasses. That book was Family Reunion by Nancy Thayer. I've obviously returned it at this point. And this is another Nancy Thayer beach read. I loved it. It was under 300 pages. It is set on Nantucket, and it was delightful. So our main protagonist is, her name just flew out of my head. I can't tell you her name. And she's turning 70, and so she lives on Nantucket year round. The house is a generational home. It was built by her great grandparents, and that spider is huge. Look at Lee, it's outside. And it's starting to show, wear and tear on houses, like how older houses do, and like houses on Nantucket definitely do. And yeah, I need to go make sure that spider's outside. Luckily, it's outside. Look at how big that thing is. I'm not zoomed in. I have no idea what that is, but it's huge. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the condensation is because the house is cold at night, and it is not cold outside. That spider is ginormous. Okay, yeah. Spiders. Where was I? Oh, Nantucket. So she invites her children and their spouses and her granddaughter to come spend the weekend and kick off summer events. And they're trying to pressure her to sell the house because it is worth, as you can imagine, a lot of money. She's like, no, I don't want to sell my generational family home. No. And her granddaughter is Aahtyn, and Aahtyn has just graduated from Bucknell. She just broke off her engagement, and she decides to come spend the summer with her grandmother working on Nantucket before going to graduate school in the fall. That sets up the story, and what we get is what we expect from a Nancy Thayer beach read: a nice family drama with a little bit of romance, Nantucket. It's just an easy read. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Finished it in the car. It was just the perfect book that my brain wanted to read. I was very happy. So Can highly recommend that one. And I went to the library, dropped off books, and picked up books. And one of those books I picked up this week was Firewall by DiAnn Mills. This is the first book in the Houston FBI trilogy. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, but my library has all 3 books sitting on the shelf. This was my first book by DiAnn Mills. So I unwisely left the other 2 in the series sitting on the shelf. I need to go back and get them. Even though I could get them on Kindle, I would rather read the physical copy. It's my first book by her. Will not be my last book by her, because y'all, this was fabulous. I started and finished this on Friday. It's romantic suspense. It was just shy of 400 pages. And nope, it was exactly 400 pages. I loved this. It was fast-paced. There was a lot of suspense. There was a lot of danger. It's set in Houston. The book opens up, and we have a honeymoon couple arriving at Hobby International Airport in Houston, and our bride, who turns out to be our female protagonist, whose name is Taryn, excuses herself to go to the ladies' room, and while she's in the ladies' room, the terminal in which they are supposed to depart from explodes. She somehow survives and is immediately thought to be a suspect in the bombing itself. And the book just carries on from there. And it is a time-stamped, action-packed, suspense-filled journey over the course of 5 days as they go from the bombing to catching the bad guy. And the drama and the suspense and the tension never lets up. And you are just immersed in this incredibly satisfying, well-rounded story. I loved it. There is a thread of romance between Taryn and the FBI agent that is assigned to her. And his name is Grayson Hall. And the very nice thing about this is that had the book concluded with them, on Friday afternoon declaring their undying love for one another, it would have completely changed the story for me, because trauma romance, as you all know, is not something I enjoy. And instead, at the conclusion of Friday afternoon, when they nab the bad guy and everything is all, tied up in a nice concluding bow, they're like, we might have something here. Can we explore it further in the future? And there is an epilogue that is 7 months later. And the epilogue wraps up the book, as it should. So it is not a trauma romance. It is high suspense, high drama, high tension. Everything you want in romantic suspense is there without it being a trauma romance throughout. And I so appreciated that. I so appreciated that. I had one complaint about this book, and it is such a minor complaint. And if you're not a Texan, you wouldn't know this. So it's a Texas-based complaint. At one point in the story, Grayson is bringing Taryn some groceries from the grocery store when she's in the hospital, and he hands her a Kroger bag. We don't have Krogers in Texas. It's just not a thing. We don't have them. They do not exist. So she could have said he handed her the grocery bag, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it. That is my only complaint in the entire book. And it is so minor and so Texas specific that it wouldn't bother a non-Texan in the slightest. But otherwise, this book was great. I absolutely adored it. And I will read more in that series. I will read more by her because I am hooked. Just hooked. Okay, what else did I read? I finished a Dave book for 24 and 2024. So I'm very, very happy about that. Or should I say, I finished a second Dave book this week. So what did I finish? I finished The Magic Engineer by Ellie Modesitt Jr. And this is the third book in the Saga of Recluse series. Now, I say it's the third book, but every book in this series can be A, read out of order, and B, be considered a standalone if the story begins and the story ends in one book. It wraps up, it concludes, you're not missing backstory about anything about Recluse. If you need to know something, the book will explain it to you in the course of the book. So I read this yesterday. It is 510 pages. Yep. And the nice thing about his books in this series is that the chapters are all very short. Some chapters are less than a page long. Like here's one. That is the whole chapter. And I must say, this book is very nicely floppy. So this is a fantasy series. And I'm trying to figure out how to describe it so it sounds approachable. So in this series, magic users are either black or white. Non-harmful or not harmful. Order magic or chaos magic. Order magic is black, chaos magic is white, and they are constantly at odds. And they have physically shaped the geography of the world and altered the geography of the world. And they don't mix. If you are chaos-based order magic, if you just get near someone that's order-based, you get sick, like, physically ill, and vice versa. So they're very separate. So in this book, it opens up and our protagonist is Doran, and he lives on Recluse with his parents and his family, and his dad is a high wizard for Recluse, and Recluse is the capital basis for black magic. And in this case, let me just clarify, black magic is not the evil connotation of black magic. And his father has the ability to control the weather should he want to. And Doran is questioning the basis of order. He wants to build things. His dad is very opposed because he thinks anything mechanically based is bound up in chaos and would destroy Recluse. So he sends them to an academy with one of his childhood friends who is also not fitting in. And 6 months at the academy, they are then exiled off of Recluse onto the continent, and they need to make their way in the world. And that sets up our story. And what you get are 3 friends. They meet up with another young man at the academy. before they're exiled. They're exiled together, and they come of age, and they're making their own ways in the world. And Doran he has healer tendencies. He was training to be a smith before he got exiled from Recluse. So he comes upon this small town. He apprentices to become a master smith. He's trying to work his healing magic. He's trying to fit in the community, but chaos is chasing him, and he doesn't understand why. He just wants to build his machines. And this is there's not a lot of spell slinging. There is a little bit at the climax of the book, but this is a slow-paced, especially this book, because, well, the title is Magic Engineer. It tells you something. A slow-paced, I want to say methodical, but not in the sense that it's plotting and boring and slow-moving, but it is methodical in the sense that it is very well plotted, and you go from point A to point B to point C to get to end point D. And there are no step skipping. And I truly enjoyed this one. Obviously, I enjoyed it. I read it in one day. And knocked out a Dave book. I enjoyed the dichotomy between chaos and order. I could very easily see my husband as Doran in this book. Although Dave would probably be more chaos-based than order-based, but if he was order-based, I could see him in this book very, very easily. I enjoy this series. I don't think it's talked about enough. Hi. Oh. And he writes excellent stories. The Saga of Recluse is not my favorite series by him. My favorite series by him is the... What is the name of the series? I have one of the books. Where is it? Here we go. This is the second book in the series. What is the name of the series? The Grand Illusion series. This is the second book, Counselor. I haven't read it yet. The first book is... What is the first book? Isolate. And this is fantastic. Saga of Recluse equally is fantastic. He's an easy to recommend author. There is a little bit of romance. There is no language. It's just great fantasy. So, what am I going to read this week? Well, I did this morning start Till Death Do Us Part by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. It publishes tomorrow, or releases tomorrow. It's less than 300 pages. 303. This was a good read to win. It's dual timeline. I love the cover. I imagine I'm going to read this today, so I will let you know how that goes. I am going to start yet another Dave book because I have nothing but Dave Chunkers left. And I need to start knocking those out because my brain is yelling at me for A, missing the August 1st deadline, and B, having only the big books left. So I'm going to pick up London by Edward Rutherford. It isn't the longest book in the series I have left, but, you know, it's up there. It's the second longest, I think. So, don't know if I will finish that this week, but I will make a start in it. And I will this week pick up, where is it? There it is. Finally, Words of Radiance. You know, I keep saying that. I keep haven't picked it up yet. I'm not intimidated. I've been letting myself mood read, and well, at some point I need to stop the mood reading and just get back to reading. So this is probably going to be one of those I need to stop mood reading books. So I am starting this week. I'm not putting it off anymore. And don't know. We will see what I read other than starting those books. What did you read last week? Anything exciting? Let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe. And I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.